that this is my second experience with the national coordination team. That is the real force behind the national round of this competition. And I am really thankful to Professor M.R.K. Prasad and Professor Babu Gada Patil for their trust in HNLU and our dedicated team. First and foremost, I would like to extend a warm welcome to the chief guest of the ceremony, Honorable Mr. Justice G. Raghuram sir, for his kind presence. Honorable Justice Raghuram sir has always been a source of inspiration and profound knowledge for all of us. His presence is always very special for all of us. And definitely, sir, welcome you on behalf of HNLU fraternity and thank you for accepting our invitation. It is my pleasure to welcome Shri L. Ravichandar sir, Senior Advocate, High Court of Telangana. Sir, we are extremely, you could take out time from your busy schedule to interact with participants and enlighten them with your rich knowledge. Welcome you, sir. Our special guest for the evening and the national coordinator of this competition, Professor M.R.K. Prasad sir, who has continuously guided and supported us throughout this endeavor. Welcome you, sir. It is my duty to welcome our mentor and inspiration, Professor Dr. V.C. Vivekanandan sir, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Hidayatullah National Law University. Sir, you always stand tall as a pillar of strength and lend your invaluable support and guidance to all of us while we work towards our goals. Thank you so much, sir, for your kind and motivational presence. I also take pleasure to welcome our registrar, Professor Dr. Uday Shankar sir, organizing secretary, Dr. Rana Navneet Roy, co-organizing secretary, Dr. Ankit Avasti, and all the faculty and student members of the organizing committee. Your efforts are truly appreciated. I welcome my team of faculty members, students who are going to play the vital role of clients during the competition, other students, and our dear friends and supporters who have joined us online for this inaugural ceremony. Finally, it is my pleasure to welcome all the participating teams from the prestigious institutions from across the country. I extend my best wishes and blessings to all of you. This is an enormous platform for you to showcase your client interviewing and counseling skills. Thank you for such an overwhelming response. I hope this event is filled with all the great and pleasant learning and networking experiences. Welcome once again on behalf of HNLU fraternity. Jai Hind. Over to you.
Thank you, sir. We have with us Dr. Rana Navneet Roy, sir, Associate Professor, HNLU. Sir is the Organizing Secretary of ICCC 2022. Dr. Rana Navneet Roy, sir, is an alumnus of Law School, BHU, and holds a doctoral degree in law from HNLU, RAIPUR. Sir has maintained a meritorious academic profile throughout. Sir also has to his credit various research papers, articles, and seminars added to his accolades. Sir, I invite you to kindly brief us about the national rounds of ICCC 2022.
Thank you, Shubham. I think I am audible as well as visible, Shubham.
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Dr. V.C. Vivekanandan, National Coordinator, Professor M.R.K. Prasad, guest of honor of today's inaugural ceremony, Mr. L. Ravichandar, Senior Advocate, High Court of Telangana, and Chief Justice of today's ceremony, Honorable Mr. Justice G. Raghuram, former Chief Justice, High Court of Andhra Pradesh, and Director, National Judicial Academy, Bhopal, Registrar of this university, Professor Yogen Srivastav, Dean Outreach Program, my all dear colleagues, students, and all participants. joined from across the India. A very good evening to one and all present here. Today, I feel privileged to get the opportunity to deliver this address about the national round of the competition at the outset of this phenomenal grand event, which is a name, a brand, and a benchmark. And it is known as Louis M. Brown and Forrest S. Mosten International Client Consultation Competition. It gives me immense pleasure to inform you all that Hidayatullah National Law University Raipur has been handpicked this year to host this India national rounds of this client consultation competition, which is scheduled from 5th of March to 6th. It is being held online with leading national law schools, other reputed government and private law schools of India participating in this competition this year. Thus, this event earmarks a memorable day. This day becomes even more special and cherishable when we have the auspicious presence of all dignitaries which they are present today. If we go into the history of this competition, we will find that a client counseling competition for law students was first of all established in 1969 by Louis M. Brown. It was adopted by the American Bar Association in 1972 and the international competition was started in the year 1985. The international competition was named after Louis M. Brown in 1993 and in May 2010, the competition's name was changed from client counseling to client consultation. The competition is affiliated with the International Bar Association and collaborates closely with law societies and bar associations throughout the world. This competition provides an opportunity for law students to learn and practice interviewing and counseling skills. Over the last 10 years, law students from more than 30 countries have taken part in this competition like Australia, China, England and Wales, Germany, Hong Kong, India, New Zealand, Russia, Sri Lanka, Switzerland, and the United States, etc. In national round this year, which HNLU is organizing, total 28 teams from leading law schools are participating. There are two stages in the competition, namely client interviewing and counseling, and next stage is post-interview and counseling stage without client. The interview and post-consultation period lasts a total of 35 minutes. The participants are evaluated by a panel of judges on the basis of a specific criteria like establishing the working atmosphere and professional approach, suggesting alternatives and allowing the client to make an informed choices, etc. After the preliminary rounds, top 6 teams shall go to the semi-final round and finally top 2 teams shall go to the final round on the basis of which winner team will be selected and team score would be the basis. Preliminary rounds would be held tomorrow, that is 5th of March, and semi-final and final rounds would be held on 6th of March 2022, that is a day after tomorrow. Thereafter, a valedictory ceremony would take place on same day in the evening at 5 p.m. The winning team of the national round would represent India in the Brown and Mosten International Client Consultation Competition 2022. The international competition is an annual competition for the winners of national competitions across the world. The 2022 international competition will be held in online mode between 19th and 24th April 2022 and will be hosted by the Hillary Clinton School of Law at Swansea University, Wales. Having said this, I welcome all the participants who have come across India, all the students, everyone. And after this, I cordially welcome all the participants, everyone in this mega event. Thank you so much for patient hearing. Thank you. Over to you, Shubham.
Thank you, sir. As rightly stated by Warren Bennis, leadership is the capacity to translate vision into reality. HNLU has touched numerous milestones under the able leadership of our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Sir, Professor V.C. Vivekanandan, Sir, and ICC 2022 adds one more feather to the hat. Prior to his appointment, Sir served as the Dean of the School of Law at Bennett University. Sir also served for more than 20 years at the Nalsa University of Hyderabad as the MHRD IP Chair Professor and the Director of Proximate Education. Sir is also the Adjunct Professor at the University of Buffalo Business School, New York. Sir, we are glad to have you as our Vice Chancellor. We request you to kindly address the August gathering.
Thank you, Mr. Shubham. Good evening to all of you. It is a bit ceremonial for me as the institutional head to be present today in this event, but it's more exciting than being ceremonial for a few reasons. We have with us the chief guest today, Honorable Justice Goda Raghuram, whom I knew almost a decade now, and I always wished he was my teacher of communications and lateral thinking, because whenever we sit more on the traditional way of talking law, a lot of other subjects we used to discuss, and it was really exciting to spend time with him whenever I get little time in his busy schedule as well as my running schedule elsewhere. So it is a very big pleasure to have him here, who is also a guide force for us, being part of the Executive Council and the Finance Committee here. And I'm pretty sure that he'll be soon here physically coming and meeting us. And who else could be better as a chief guest, as I said, when you're talking counseling as a very important psychological tool for a lawyer to get relief for the client. So I, on behalf of HNLU, I do welcome Honorable Justice today for this meeting. The second is guest of honor, Mr. L. Ravichanda, an advocate, which more Justice Raghuram will know from that part of the world. But I need to tell the bit of the role which Ravichander played in me getting into legal profession, because we remember a group of people yet to get into law. We are much juniors, but we used to really what you call us keep Ravi as one of our role model those days. I do remember my good friend Giridhar and few people, whenever there is a letter from Ravichander, that those days you call that as the inland letter, which reaches from Hyderabad to Chennai, and there'll be a call, Ravi's letter has come. And so all we had to go and surround it and then try to decipher the letter and then read it and then laugh ourselves and get inspired. So that way, Mr. L. Ravichander, whom I knew as an inspirational person for me also to get into this field, later on, interestingly, did a course with Nalsar on, a patents law. And I was a little nervous because I have to teach him in the class. And then much later, I heard through another friend, what did Mr. Ravi tell about me? He said, he's okay, not bad. So I thought that's the best compliment Ravi can give me. And I thought that must be the best compliment he's given very few people, I think. So Mr. L. Ravichander, who also takes Lex Osmosis course in a level about legal language, etc., he's with us. I'm quite happy, right? I do watch his cooking show in YouTube. He does that also, aplomb like what he does in the court. And Ravi is always for us a delight to talk, a person who energizes us. So thank you for being here. And then we have Professor Prasad, who is a very well-known person in this particular area of counseling from Salgaonkar College. Earlier also he participated with us, and he was another person instrumental for looking at various proposals and entrusting HNLU to conduct this national rounds. So his work on client counseling has been pioneering, not from any big law school, but from Salgaonkar, a traditional college. He has done a yeoman service on this throughout the country, and then his presence is something really we all cherish. Of course, I have my other colleagues who have been spearheading this, Professor Uday Shankar, Registrar and Dean of Outreach, and then other members like Rana as well as Dr. Ankit, who are, brought this today through the inaugural. So with this, in my ceremonial part, but if I have to say a few words in the sense, we are talking about the only profession which is referred in the Constitution, that is the legal profession. And then we attach quite a lot of, what I call as more than the technicality, we attach a lot of morality to that in terms of ethics and many things. When you talk about client counseling, we are not only talking professionalism, we are also underlying ethics, which also is part of this particular profession. And let me tell you, over 30 years, one or the other way associated with law schools teaching, I can say that professional graph is reaching phenomenally high. When I say the professional part, the ethical part, if you ask me, I will reserve my comment. I will definitely look at professional part. They are on par with anyone. Ethical part, which I consider like why we all came into this with taking Mr. Ravi as an example, all that is not that we are going to make tons of money, not that, we are going to be celebrities, but there was a strong push of service and taking up what is right, standing by that. And that is very important. Both are important for a client who has no clue about this world many a times. There are few who know what to talk to you. The vast majority have no clue about it. And I do recollect and remember, which I'm not tired of telling, one of the first chief minister of a regional party in Tamil Nadu called Mr. C. N. Annadurai, who was a first chief minister of DMK party, once remarked that he said in his own way that law is a dark room and the lawyer's arguments are the light, which lights up the room for the judge to see justice. And then he added, unfortunately, this lamp is not available to the majority. It is only for few who could afford it. This I'm talking somewhere, he has commented in mid-60s. And after 40, 50 years, we really take stock. We'll have to really seriously introspect. And this is where I wanted to tell my word as what I call as professionalism, one side, and then completely within a foundation of ethics put together, in my opinion, is this particular part of counseling, which many of you are going to compete. I am not the most competent person. I've been a professor, and our counseling has been only with would-be lawyers, that too mostly unsuccessfully, right? And then they become lawyers, they have a different field altogether, and then it's a different world altogether. I know that when I and a lawyer talk, that we sometimes wonder whether the same thing we studied at times, right? Then, but I have to go with the lawyer because he knows better for me about how to do that. That is the short part of this counseling. So let me end up about the ethics. When you said there was this lawyer who came back home and very disturbed, and his wife made him a cup of tea and said, "Look, very disturbed. What is the problem?" He said that something in the office. If you wish, you can share. I will try to help you. Then he said, "See, when I was about to close, this old lady came and asked me some small, doubt and kind of idea. So I told her, I'm going to charge you." She said, "No problem." It was a very simple thing. I explained. And then I told her that it's about $20. She gave me a cover and went. When I came back in the car, I opened, it is $200, not 20. I'm thoroughly disturbed, he said. Then his wife said, "I don't understand. She must have given the address on the cover." "Oh, absolutely," he said. "Phone number?" "Yes." "Call her, send her the $20, the remaining part back." He said, "No, that is not my disturbance. My disturbance is whether I should share this information with my partner in my law firm." That was his disturbance. So this is on the lighter vein. We have to laugh at ourselves on many things for us to improve. With this, I conclude my opening remarks for the organizers to carry it forward. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your enthralling words. We have with us the National Coordinator of ICCC 2022, Professor Dr. M.R.K. Prasad, sir. Sir is a leading expert in clinical education in India. Sir is the recipient of Vanderbilt Fulbright Scholarship in Clinical Legal Education. Sir is also a professor at VM Salgaonkar College of Law. Over the course of his career, Sir has served as chairman of the Moot Court Society, Legal Aid Society, and ADR Board, and became principal in August 2015. Sir is instrumental in establishing and functionalizing India's first legal aid setup being run by a law college. For this initiation, VM Salgaonkar Law College received Institutional Excellence Award of 2011 from the Society of Indian Law Firms and the Menon Institute of Legal Advocacy Training. Sir was the coach for the teams that participated in ADR International Mooting Competition organized by City University Hong Kong and ICC International Commercial Mediation Competition, Paris and Vienna. Sir has very vital contributions to the legal field of academics and research. I now invite Sir to kindly grace the occasion with words of wisdom.
Thank you, Subham, and good evening to one and all. Greetings from Goa. Today's chief guest, Honorable Justice Raghuram Garu, the Director of National Judicial Academy, Bhopal. Guest of honor, L. Ravichandra Garu, Senior Advocate, High Court of Telangana. And Professor Dr. V.C. Vivekanandaji, Honorable Vice Chancellor, HNLU Raipur. Professor Uday Shankar, Professor Yogendra Kumar Srivastav, Dr. Rana, and Ankit. Students, participants, ladies and gentlemen. So it gives me an immense pleasure to be part of this initiation today and also today's function. Before I could say a few words, first let me put on record, place on record my sincere thanks to Professor Vivekanandan sir and also Srivastav sir for hosting this event in their wonderful institution. Of course, we have no chance of visiting their institution because of the pandemic, but through online, it is really, sir, thank you very much for accepting our request to conduct this national rounds. To say a few words, because I'm already spoken to the participants, as a clinical law teacher, I have always had a problem with the way the law was taught in the law colleges. Previously, when we were studying law, probably that time it is only a law college, but today it has become a lawyer's college. Therefore, the students who are finishing the course in the law colleges and joining in the profession, at least be ready 80% as a lawyer to join in the profession. Unlike when we were studying, where after studying, we spent 6-7 years with a senior lawyer and learn the tricks of the profession. We expect the younger generation now today that they should learn 3 years or 5 years course in the law college. However, if you see that the theory that taught in the law college and the practice in the profession is completely different. And this gap between the theory of teaching law and practicing law, we are unable to narrow it down. Though I understand the limitations of a law college not to able to create a lawyer suitable to the profession immediately. But I do believe that this gap between the theory and the practice could be reduced, at least, if not completely taken, wiped off. For that, we understand that there are several skill courses that we need to introduce, what we call as clinical legal education in the law colleges. However, the most of the law colleges are stopped with the moot court. And when I interacted with some of the top lawyers, they always used to comment that the moot court is the best example how not to argue in the court. Means it has become a drama rather than the actual arguments in the court. So therefore, one of the reasons why I was fascinated with this competition, I started involved from 2006 onwards, that as a lawyer, you have several important functions to perform. But the primary function of the lawyer is to interview and counsel the client. And this function is very important because the lawyer-client relationship is first established in your chamber when you are doing the interviewing and counseling. And unfortunately, this function was overlooked by many colleges. And as a result, what happens is that how do you conduct interview? How do you conduct a counseling you would learn from your senior when you join in a legal profession. And if there are already some issues with the professional area, those evils automatically will pass on to the younger generations. So if a lawyer is not fully equipped with conducting interviewing and counseling, that would result in deterioration of standards of the profession. So the deficiency of these two, interviewing and counseling, contributes to poor interpersonal skills, which affects the lawyer-client relationship. So therefore, conducting this kind of competition becomes important so that it would be popularized among the young lawyers about the skills of client counseling and lawyer. And that's one of the reasons why when I took over in 2006, I used to conduct this from different corners of the country. And though there is no funding from the international agencies, but most of our national colleges are grace enough to host this competition and organize for the benefit of the students. And as Vivekananda sir has rightly pointed out, we have a serious issue about the ethics. Now, how do you teach ethics to the students? Though Bar Council has made from 2008 professional ethics as a compulsory subject, now what are we doing in the college is mostly we teach what is the Bar Council rules and etc. But these skills, the identifying whether it is an ethical problem or not, how do you actually handle this ethical issue when you are actually a lawyer with the client, it is something to be learned through simulation rather than just reading the books and cases. So the client counseling gives an excellent opportunity for the students to learn the interpersonal skills, interviewing skills, and probing skills, and also identifying ethical dilemmas. And one of the things that we made compulsory is that all the teams should charge money, the fees. So charging fees is an issue with a lot of lawyers. So therefore, how the students would look at it. Because I sometimes fascinate in one of the competition when a client has come, ask the lawyer that he wants some 50,000 compensation for some goods which are defective under the consumer protection. The lawyer is asking 1 lakh as a fees. So the client was baffled with that and said, I'm asking 50,000 as a compensation. You are asking me to pay 1 lakh for your fees. So it is better not to come to the court rather than paying you 1 lakh and getting 50,000 in return. But the students were adamant saying that that is my policy of my firm. We cannot charge you less than that. So that shows how mostly we are becoming insensitive to the client's needs. As we discussed that access to justice is one of the prime goal of our constitution, and the Indian constitution being a great social document, expecting that using through constitution the social disabilities, disparities has to be reduced. I think the lawyers and the law students has to play a very key role. So for that, what we need is the law colleges should produce competent lawyers, and at the same time, these competent lawyers are socially relevant lawyers. Otherwise, you may be highly skilled, highly educated, highly competent, but if you are not useful for the society, then there is no use for us. Or you are ready to use for the society, but you don't have the skills, again, it's no use. So that's why we expect through this clinical legal education competitions like this, we want to make the students to learn the skills and also become socially relevant. So the idea is that at least through these competitions, you understand that the client problems are something different, what not you study under the subject. Okay, so that is one of the reasons why we do conduct. And I wish all the participants a good luck. Let the best team win, and whichever the team win, hopefully will bring the trophy back to India. So all our wishes are with you. And once again, I'm thankful for HNLU Raipur for hosting this wonderful event. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your enlightening words. May I take the privilege to introduce the guest of honor, today's inaugural ceremony, Mr. L. Ravichandar sir. Sir is currently a senior advocate at the High Court of Telangana. Sir is a rank-holding economics graduate from Osmania University and holds a law degree from Chennai. Sir has been a practicing lawyer for over 4 decades and a part-time journalist over 3 decades. Sir is a designated senior counsel and was special government leader in the High Court of Andhra Pradesh and has assisted the Advocate General of Andhra Pradesh as well. Also, Sir has been additional standing counsel for the Union of India in the High Court of Andhra Pradesh for 3 consecutive terms. I request Sir to kindly address the gathering with his enlightenment.
Thank you very much, Shubham, for those nice words, and it just makes my task that much more difficult. Professor Yogendra Kumar Srivastav, Dr. Navneet Roy, Professor M.R.K. Prasad, my friend, dignitary, Vice Chancellor, Professor Dr. Vivekanand, and a friend of all times, Justice Raghuram. Also, Uday Shankar, the registrar. It's nice to be at this gathering for a variety of reasons. The first of it, of course, being that I'm listening to my voice, which is what all lawyers love doing. The second is I hope to personally catch up with Raghuram because I've been trying to get across to him from today morning to wish him a happy birthday, and he hasn't been receiving my messages. So happy birthday, Raghuram. And also because all these, I find it very interesting that these paradigms of how one learns to swim is changing. The buoyancy is different, and therefore the physics will also alter. I have no doubts about that. In fact, just before me, Professor Prasad was talking about the ethics in our society and how there are ethical dilemmas, including the fee structure, etc. I don't know. I really, and I have no litmus test on which I could put somebody as ethical, somebody is unethical or non-ethical. I don't even know if the opposite to ethical is non-ethical or unethical. So there's this huge problem going on. I'm reminded of what Majruh Sultanpuri had said long ago. He said, in a very famous song, "ये पाप है क्या, ये पुण्य है क्या, रीतों पर धर्म के मोहरे हैं, हर युग में बदलते धर्मों को कैसे आदर्श बनाओगे, संसार से भागे फिरते हो, भगवान को तुम क्या पाओगे." So, something is constantly in flux. Our moral moorings, our goals, intellectual, personal, emotional, ethical, keep altering from time to time. I am no superior to be sharing either experience or jnana with an entire new generation to whom I concede that they have much greater knowledge. I'm speaking to you fresh with an experience that opened up my mind all over again. I'm just coming from an Amitabh Bachchan film called Jhund, which talks about slum soccer. Is there ethics? What are the ethics we're talking about? Are there rules in the game that are vertical handouts by a vested interested social system? Are we patterned by a unhygienic vertical which a young generation would like to not only break but defy? I don't think there are ready-made answers. And if there are ready-made answers, I don't think the younger generation must swallow it as if it is some Ganga Jal. I think the young generation is far, far more focused than what I was during my career as a student. So I have no business to be pontifying and telling you this is what you should be doing, this is what I should not be doing, etc. That's not my cup of tea. However, from experience, A few experiences that I could share is probably A, be rooted. Understand that this profession is cyclic. I know when Raghuram last left this bar, I was a big failure lawyer, still trying to make ends meet, making a little bit of money. Today, I watched that show. I'm slightly more comfortable. People take me a tad more seriously. How did this happen? Is it because I'm more intelligent? Is it because I'm more ethical? Is it because I've become more knowledgeable? I would believe none of them. It is the sway of time. I've drifted along with the winds. I've just kept a very few do's and don'ts to myself. I've not placed them, I've not carved them out and said, these are must. If you don't do these, you make a bad lawyer. If you do these, you make a good lawyer. No, I don't think there are absolutes for any one of us in anything that we do, including the meeting that you are competing in, how you react with clients. There are ways and means. Being extremely polite would sound that you're very commercial. Being honest, being witted would show that you touch a chord with somebody who's a very honest man in this country who comes with a legal problem. So I don't think these are textbook instances or textbook perfections that a lawyer will get. As Professor said very correctly, as Professor Prasad said very correctly, if you watch, if you notice, if you just keep your eyes and ears open over what is happening over time, you will understand that skill is an acquisition, is not an inheritance. It does not come to you from a vertical in a college or in a school or by standing up at a victory stand with an international trophy in your almara or in the college almara. It doesn't. The day you know to swim, you're a good swimmer, whether you win a gold medal or not is irrelevant. All through my life, I have believed, and Vivek will stand up to this, I've never been one who believes that success is very important. I believed, enjoy the path. Do what you're doing with all the conviction that you have, and I think you will make it. All of you are far more focused youngsters. Again, going back to what can be ethical in our society. Forget our society. There's this very interesting aside in the Ramayana. Guha takes Rama in the boat, sets him on his trip, and very soon thereafter, he is called upon to take Bharata and the entire contingent to Rama. After the initial suspicion and hesitance, he begins a conversation with Bharata while introducing the people in his audience. Bharata praises Kaushalya, praises Sumitra, and demeans Kaikeyi in his introductory remarks to Guha. A little while later in the boat, Bharata notices that Guha is paying far more respect to Kaikeyi than to Kaushalya and Sumitra. This is obviously intriguing to Bharata, and so he asks Bharata, how is it that you're doing this in spite of all that I told you? He said, listen, I'm not concerned with the power politics of your family and the palace. I'm not concerned with the palace intrigue. To me, if Kaikeyi was not there, I would never have had Ram Darshan. It is thanks to Kaikeyi's plan that I happened to meet Rama. Therefore, to me, she is the deliverer. This is morality, Guha. Morality or ethics, Guha, were different from morality, ethics, Bharata. What do you learn from this, if there is anything to learn? That there are no constants. At least they will not spring from somebody like me, who's still learning the skills in the trade, who's still learning law. Yes, if there's something I would believe that as a word I can pass on to all of you, that I believe is one incomplete piece in the big puzzle of near perfection that the entire young generation has, is that they don't read enough. They may study well, but they don't read enough. If you can keep reading, if you can look at these institutional competitive events as windows and not doors, open up, breathe fresh, and keep reading like you're possessed. I keep admiring Raghuram for being the kind of voracious reader he is. The kind of library he has, both in his mind and physically in his house, is an indication as to how a great person can acquire humility and greatness only through coded, printed words that you must have an unsatiated hunger for. I know I am cutting short my speech by about 2 to 3 minutes, but that is something I would have to extend because I know that Raghuram is a brilliant speaker and he's one who'll show you so many nuances of the road ahead. Thank you, Vivek. Waiting to hear you, Raghuram.
Thank you, sir, for your enlightening words. It is our honor to have amongst us Honorable Justice Shri G. Raghuram, sir, as the chief guest for the inaugural ceremony. Sir has graduated in science from Andhra University and in law from Osmania University. Sir joined the chambers of Shri B. Venkatramanaya, former Advocate General of Andhra Pradesh, and acquired considerable practice in various fields and specialized in constitutional law and service matters. During his professional career, Sir appeared as senior counsel for various institutions, including the Government of India. Sir is a recognized expert in constitutional law. He was appointed as a judge in the High Court of Andhra Pradesh in April 2000 and retired on attaining the age of superannuation in the year of March 2013. May I now humbly request Sir to kindly deliver the address.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you're
Can you
perfectly
hear
audible.
me? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Shubham. Good evening, Vice Chancellor Dr. Vivekanandan, Professor Srivastava, Dr. Navneet Roy, Dr. M.R.K. Prasad, and my dear friend Ravichandar for over 4 decades. We met when we were in Yuvani in All India Radio. After that, there was a break till we met again about 3.5 decades ago as co-dualists in the field of law. Ravi has covered a wide panorama of his concerns, his evolution, and the challenges that he faced. And as he rightly said, he has not come to give you any gyan, neither have I. As I always used to say while I was associated in Bhopal, that knowledge is not a positive component. It is progressive elimination of ignorance. And therefore, we learn every day to unlearn small drops of the vast ocean of ignorance. That's how it is. But this client consultation or client counseling is a cosmos in itself. It has a clutch of disciplines, including counseling or interacting with the client off the court, during the course of the court proceedings, and again off the court in your chambers. There are again asymmetries between individual lawyers, protocols for individual lawyers counseling or consulting with clients, and lawyers in law firms, then law persons in corporate law firms, all these have different dimensions and different protocols and different paradigms of cognitive, ethical, financial, administrative, and several other areas which need to be learnt. I remember when I was a junior deviling with my senior, I still recollect I would have taken at least more than a couple of thousand notes in my self-devised shorthand, which was longhand. I had some abbreviations so that I could catch up with the dictation. I learned at the feet of a great and ethical lawyer, and that's how slowly the period of mentorship was a very, very profound time for us to learn. Similarly, Ravi also spent years with a senior. Today, we have quite a few people who come into litigation as Swayambhu lawyers. Some of them even come to the enrollment center in a car procured from a prospective client's money collected in advance. We didn't have neither those luxuries nor those temptations. We had to struggle, walking, traveling in a bus, then slowly graduating from a second or a third hand motorbike to later bigger vehicles as we grew up. While the economic opportunities are very enticing, these also act as a dampener to the acquisition of cognitive skills. Ethics, again, there's nothing like, as Ravi in his own inimitable style said, there's nothing like a static metric of ethics. It's an evolving area. What was ethics to Gandhiji would be difficult to practice today. Almost impossible to practice today. Then the ethical requirements for therapeutic litigation, like domestic violence or child custody, would be different, or private litigation, civil criminal litigation would be different from the ethics required in corporate litigation. And the ethics required for being a counsel or an arbitrator are again different. So are they different for a negotiator, for a mediator. These are different dimensions of the practice of law. As Ravi rightly pointed out in his context, it equally holds good in my context too. People tend to give advice when they're no longer able to set a bad example. And I'm out of the profession, and therefore I wouldn't like to pontificate on what should or should not be done. We have got very exciting 2 days sessions on client consultation. As I said, there are many other dimensions to the interface with client of the court and during the court proceedings. Recently, I was talking to a lawyer, a senior lawyer, who was asking me for advice. And she said, you know, she has a peculiar problem, and somebody appeared in the court and said, you have spoken to my client earlier, the other side lawyer. He said, I maintain a very strict record of the persons I meet for consultation, whether I take a fee or not. I have a register, and this name doesn't show up in the register. It's so transpired that there are some people who just walk in to a lawyer's office and then ask something, and the lawyer orally tells, look, I can't appear for you because I'm already appearing in the matter for somebody else or something like that. That's a very short conversation without any particulars of the case or the litigation shared. So these are some of the aspects also that need to be noticed in client consultation and client counsel, apart from, you know, the need for a deep probe into the client's facts relevant to the litigation. The settling of the fee. Some cases you have to do. I was always insisting when I was in the National Academy that we should have a structure where, at least for public positions in litigation, like a government pleader, assistant government pleader, or higher positions, or for elevation, there should be a benchmark of pro bono work done. At least in some areas. In some areas, it may not be possible where you are exclusively in the commercial litigation or taxation field. Even there, it is possible, because when I was in a tax tribunal during my tenure of judicial office after my retirement, there were many cases where it was an indirect taxes tribunal. There were many cases where people couldn't afford, because the tax demand was about a couple of lakhs, which was a small amount compared to the, sometimes there were cases where the demand was something like 25-30,000 crores. So compared to those bigger cases, smaller cases were there. And that person had already exhausted himself or herself, the litigant, in the litigation before the superintendent, assistant commissioner, commissioner, or commissioner appeals in the departmental adjudication. And by the time he came to the first independent adjudicatory forum, which is the tribunal, tax tribunal that I was associated with, he had no money to engage a lawyer. So I used to use my clout as a tribunal, very, very senior lawyers, some of them who had big clients to appear in the case. And I used to direct the registry to hand over the papers so that they could study and come, and we used to give them strict lines. And either because of the position I was holding, which was perhaps they wanted to maintain a good relationship with me for the other cases or whatever reason, or they were very, very good people, which could, the later could be the truer fact. They used to appear and did wonderful job of representing those poor clients. This also happens in courts, as Ravi knows very well, the number of cases where he appears pro bono and is also asked by the court to assist as amicus curiae or as a pro bono lawyer for some client, which many lawyers do, but a few lawyers don't do that. And therefore, those lawyers should be deprived or kept away from any call to the public office, which is still enticing in a quasi-feudal society like ours. People hanker after public positions, maybe in the course of making big money or after making big money for a while. So that could be used as an incentive or a leverage to make them to put in a requirement of some substantial pro bono work as a condition precedent to a call to a public service office. Client counseling again, client consultation again is it also requires, like in the medical field, bedside manners. Sometimes a client has some issue at the age of 45 or 50, some event which has a litigative potential, but he would like to start with how his grandfather grew up. You'll have to, he's so agitated that he would like to start with that background. So you'll have to give that client a little bit of space so that he unburdens or unwinds himself before he comes to the facts of the case. And today I find not only in my days as a lawyer and then on the bench and thereafter in the academy, that precision, language precision, drafting precision, speaking precision has become a casualty over the years. It's very easy to be prolix. Oral continence is a pandemic. And now it also translates into graphic incontinence. Thousands of pages of judgment which lead to climate change, but hardly contribute anything to jurisprudence. That should be avoided. all these are various incidents of a lawyer's equipment. Like in the US, which is already a nation under lawyers, we are also slowly reaching the end of the road of being a nation under lawyers. And there was a time when I and Ravi joined the profession when a lawyer was not a very, very desirable candidate in the matrimonial market. Today, the situation has drastically changed, and a lawyer, bride or a groom is among the top picks in the matrimonial market. That brings about with it that change, that evolutionary change brings about with it certainly ethical challenges too, because chasing money is the principal occupation of many professionals today. We also wanted money when we were young, lawyers, greenhorn lawyers, briefless, low brief lawyers in the beginning. But then we had great masters who were our mentors, who taught us patience, who taught us to play a test match cricket in the career instead of a T20 or T10 or T5. And therefore, quick success also leads to quick burnout, physically, emotionally, and more important, in your acquisition of the cognitive skills. I remember a great saying of Robert Boak, an eminent American constitutional jurist who lost his nomination because he was a conservative black American. He said, speaking of a judge, which is equally true of a lawyer, particularly the bench, there's hardly any opportunity to navigate through a busy docket, sometimes a couple of pages of 100 or 150 cases on my roster. Those were better times. Now it is much more. So therefore, I had to assess the lawyer. If it's a young lawyer, how do I take his oral submissions? If he's a senior lawyer, is he so senior that he can't read the brief and therefore depends on somebody else to whisper some few facts? And therefore, should I read the pleadings again or just go by his pleadings? If he is a brilliant, hardworking young lawyer who has not yet become busy, then I'm comfortable because he would have stated the facts and all the relevant facts correctly and placed the correct law before us. So these are the skills that judges employ to navigate through a busy docket. And similarly, you will have to fall into that bracket of an ethical, hardworking, comprehensive lawyer who presents the facts and the law correctly before the court. You may have a twist to your argument, but it should not be a deviation from the ethical norms. These are very important. These are also part of the client consultation protocols that you will have to follow while advising a client on the possibilities of his success. And again, there are calibrations in that. If it's a very serious problem that a client has, for instance, a dismissal from service or a severe sentence which affects life and liberty, or a very, very dolorous economic consequence of the legal problem that he or she has, then you should advise on the possibilities of the case and then advise him whether he should try, even though it's a, what in Hyderabad language we call a Unnis B's case, a borderline case, for success or otherwise. If it's a relatively non-significant problem that one has, and you are satisfied that the outcome according to the current law and the future growth of the law and the possibilities on your professional assessment are bleak, then you should advise the client accordingly also. That's part of the ethical component of a good lawyer. Patience. And I also always used to make a distinction, which I learned over the years when I was in Bhopal, between hearing and listening. Hearing is the reception of the auditory signals because your eardrums are functioning. Listening is the absorption of the received content. Therefore, don't make a pretense of hearing. Listen, absorb, empathize with the client's position, and then advise. These are a few of the tips in the vast clutch of components that one has to acquire in client consultation and client counseling, which you'll be guided through during the 2-day vibrant session that you have, and the HNLU has provided you with the help of these eminent persons participating in this program. I'm extremely happy to be at this event, and I thank Vice Chancellor Vivekanandan and his team. And it's an added pleasure because I could meet up with my very dear friend for over 5 decades, Ravichandar. We'll meet up certainly. You called me at a number which I'm no longer using. I'll send you my current number. We'll catch up. And today, I never celebrate my birthdays. Today, I'm celebrating my retirement. It's 1 year since I'm off the yoke of... It's such a relief. I always thought, people carry their profession or their office too seriously. There were some judges who were so full of themselves that they were living outside their bodies. So I used to tell them, don't live with a Hercules or Atlas complex as though you're carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders. You will only end up with judicial spondylitis. You will not be able to help either yourself or the world. So that's another thing, I'm now reading a very profound book, Ravi. If you have not read, I would recommend that book to you. It's Brian Greene's Until the End of Time. And he says that, people tend to leave the Homo insapient, who calls himself or herself the sapient, is the only species who is for a long time cognizant of the impermanence of life, of death. No other species, it has the imminence of death, but human beings know when your grandfather, great-grandfather die that one day you are also going to go, and slowly you acquire that it's a reality. And therefore you try to leave a hallucinatory permanent imprint on your insignificant life in the vastness of the cosmos, as Carl Sagan put it. You are a mote of, the planet on which you tread your footsteps is itself a mote of dust dancing in an insignificant sunbeam of a mediocre star called the sun. So it's a wonderful philosophical book by an astrophysicist, one of the 10 best astrophysicists in the world today.
Till the End of Time, did you say?
Until the End of Time by Brian. Until the End of Time.
Brian?
By Brian, B-R-I-A-N, Brian Greene, Green with a ending with a E.
Okay. Like Graham Greene.
Correct. Like Graham Greene.
Yeah.
So that's it. When you grow older, you tend to be loquacious. I wouldn't want to be accused of that too much. And those are the few thoughts I thought I'll share with you. You have a long career, and please do catch up on reading law should also be a part of your cognitive equipment. Don't be only ingesting law. You'll find when you grow in your profession that law is a graphic recording of policy. In most of the world today, our democratic governments are so-called, and these policies are framed in the crucible of the elected bodies called the legislatures in our country, with people sitting and discussing when they have time. Very rarely they have that time and the leisure or the inclination to discuss law. They frame policies with severe limitations of foresight. And that is recorded in language. Language is plurisignative, and English language is chronically plurisignative. That produces uncertainty and incoherence. And those are interpreted according to a bewildering variety of theories of interpretation, what is called the politics of jurisprudence. And these are applied to very, very idiosyncratic, exponentially evolving social contexts and human emotions, which conjure up the facts which provide the basis for litigation. And therefore, these imperfect tools are applied to facts generated much later than the policies and in an imperfect language by people with limited foresight. And therefore, the outcomes are rarely satisfactory for either or often for both the parties. And therefore, law and its outcomes, litigative outcomes, which are supposed to provide an equilibrium to the disquiet in the society, fail to do so. And therefore, as lawyers, be conscious that compared to mathematicians or physicists, whether of the astrophysical or quantum mechanics or cosmological physics variety, law is a mediocre profession. We are what are called the karaoke crowd. Gajendra Karkar said this, Kaka Subbarao said this, and that's most of the time that's what we do. So don't be so full of yourself, as somebody said, to live out of your body. Be grounded that you are an imperfect presenter of a still more imperfect bouquet of tools which hardly produce satisfactory outcomes or contribute to social equilibrium. And that humility should serve you well in the long career that awaits you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your enlightening address. Proceeding towards the new part of our inaugural session, we have with us our Honorable Registrar, Professor Dr. Uday Shankar, sir. Sir was previously associated with the Rajiv Gandhi School of Intellectual Property Law of IIT Kharagpur and was also the founding faculty of HNLU in 2003. Sir also served as an assistant professor at HNLU from 2003 to 2009. Sir joined HNLU as registrar in August 2021. May I now humbly request our registrar, sir, to kindly deliver the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Subham. A very good evening to all of you. The current edition of the Louis M. Brown and Forrest S. Mosten International Client Consultation Competition is being proudly hosted by Hidayatullah National Law University. In the year 2010, the competition got renamed as Consultation Competition to give a very comprehensive approach to the skill which is to be evaluated in this competition. It is my honor to extend the vote of thanks to all the invited dignitaries on behalf of the university and the organizing committee. I place my humble gratitude to our chief guest, Justice G. Raghuram, former Judge, High Court of Andhra Pradesh, and former Director, National Judicial Academy, Bhopal. We also get the guidance of Sir as members of Executive Council and the Finance Committee. Sir, thanks for accepting our invite. Your patronage and encouragement is very valuable for us. On behalf of the university, I also thank our guest of honor, Sri L. Ravichandar, Senior Advocate, High Court of Telangana. Sir, thanks for being part of inaugural event and other academic activities of the university. Thank you, sir. Let me also thank Professor M.R.K. Prasad for his presence in the inaugural function, as well as accepting the proposal of the university to host this event, which holds a very high esteem for the law student. Thank you for bestowing this faith on us. Let me also thank and express my gratefulness to our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor V.C. Vivekanandan, for all encouragement and guidance he gives to us, and particularly to make this event a successful one. Sir, on behalf of all of us, thank you and motivating the HNLU family. My thanks to also Professor Yogendra, Professor Rana, and Professor Ankit for tirelessly working to organize the event and taking care of all nuances to make the event a successful one. Conducting an event online has always been a challenge. I thank Professor Anita and the IT team for ensuring a sort of hassle-free event for next 2 days. I hope that it will go very smoothly. Also, on behalf of the university, I thank the students and faculties and staffs for joining this inaugural edition of the client consultation competition. Towards the end, I fondly thank the distinguished dignitaries for accepting our invite to join the inaugural event of this prestigious competition known as Louis M. Brown and Forrest S. Mosten International Client Consultation Competition. I wish a great success of this event and also my best wishes to the participants. Thank you all. Have a nice evening.
Dear Mr. Shubham.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I would like to just add only one thing, that